Historic first. At 19 she trains to fly fighter jets. Princess Leonor prepares for a throne unheld by a woman in 157 years. The world thinks they know Princess Leonor. The quiet heir, the dutiful daughter, the future queen who grew up under the steady gaze of cameras, tradition, and expectation. But they don't know the truth. Not the real one. Not the version her family sees when the palace doors close and the microphones turn off. Because behind that poised smile is a 19-year-old girl living through one of the most demanding transformations any young woman has ever faced. A transformation so intense, so historic, so brutally challenging that even the most seasoned military officers admit privately, they wouldn't want to trade places with her for a single day. And here is the contradiction the world can't look away from. She was born into the crown, but she is choosing the burden. She was raised in tradition, but she is training in fire. And while the throne waits for her, she is learning to fly fighter jets. Not metaphorically, not symbolically, literally. Princess Leonor of Spain is preparing to command a throne no woman has held in 157 years, and she is doing it through a military path so demanding that most who begin it fail. So the question becomes, why? Why put herself through this? Why step into a world of discipline, danger, and responsibility when she could have chosen a far softer road? To answer that, we have to go back. To her childhood, to her father, to the weight she never asked for but accepted anyway, and to the moment it all became real. It starts quietly, always quietly. A young Leonor watching her father, King Felipe VI, prepare for another long day of duty. His uniform laid out, his posture perfect, his voice steady even when the world was not. And she noticed something most adults miss. Responsibility isn't loud, it isn't glamorous, it isn't royal, it is quiet and heavy and lonely. And yet, her father carried it with dignity. As she grew older, she watched Spain change around her. Political storms, social debate, economic pressures. Through every crisis, her father stood firm. And so one day, still just a girl, she asked him the question that would shape her destiny. How do you handle all of it? King Felipe didn't answer immediately. He rarely did. He thought first, as he always did. And then he said the sentence that would sit in her young mind for years. To lead a country, you must know it. Not from above, but from within. Those words were the seed. Years later, they became her choice. Her path. Her identity. Because Leonor understood something most royal heirs never truly grasp. A crown is not inherited. A crown is earned. And the military path, the one taken by her father, her grandfather, and generations before them, was her way of earning it. Which takes us to the present. 19 years old, barely finished with school, and suddenly waking up in a Navy dorm at dawn, her world stripped of comforts, ceremony, and luxury. A thin mattress. A uniform that has to be earned each day. A schedule so strict and demanding that even elite athletes struggle to maintain it. And then the moment every cadet remembers for the rest of their life. The moment she stepped onto the airfield for the first time and realized. This is real. This is dangerous. This is the sky I must learn to command. Her instructors watched her closely. Not because she was royalty, but because the sky plays no favorites. Gravity doesn't bow, wind doesn't obey, Mach speed doesn't slow because the pilot has a title. Leonor would have to earn everything the same way the others did, or not at all. And here's the truth the palace never says publicly. Her training is harder because of who she is, not easier. Every mistake is magnified, every weakness recorded, every hesitation judged. But here is the part no one expected. Leonor didn't break under the pressure. She sharpened. People who trained beside her describe a young woman who is quieter than anyone else in the room, but absorbs everything. One instructor said, she has the eyes of someone who understands consequence. That is rare. Another said, she never uses her title. Not once. She wants us to see her as a cadet. Nothing more. And slowly, the cadets around her stopped seeing her as the princess, and started seeing her as something else. A leader. That is where the training shifts. Because once she proved she could follow, they began testing whether she could command. Simulations, emergencies, split-second decisions, situations designed to overwhelm even the calmest mind. And here is where curiosity loops deeper. How does a 19-year-old girl, born into privilege, handle the brutal, emotionally draining world of military aviation? The answer reveals the heart of the story. She handles it because she isn't doing it alone. There is someone behind her. Someone watching quietly. Someone who knows exactly what it feels like to carry a country. Her father, King Felipe, doesn't interfere. He doesn't soften the path. But he does something far more powerful. He lets her struggle. He lets her fail. He lets her rise on her own. But every so often, late at night, a message appears on her phone, the private line only her family uses. Keep going. The hardest days are the ones that make you. No crown can replace that kind of fatherhood. But her mother, Queen Letizia, is the emotional counterbalance. Where Felipe offers discipline, Letizia offers heart. She worries, quietly, constantly, but she doesn't show it publicly. She doesn't tell her daughter to stop. Instead, she calls with the gentlest reminder. Even the strongest leaders need moments of rest. Between those two voices, the king's discipline and the queen's compassion, Leonor walks the narrow line between soldier and heir, between girlhood and monarchy, between duty and identity. But there is more, something deeper, something emotional and unexpected. Her training is not just preparing her to fly. It is preparing her to rule a country that has never seen a woman on the throne in modern history. Not for 157 years. And that weight is heavier than any uniform. Heavier than any aircraft. Heavier than any expectation placed on her shoulders. Her instructors say that when she sits in the cockpit, she becomes someone else. Someone focused. Someone fierce. Someone who understands that a single decision can change everything. That is what makes her historic. But here is the curiosity loop that ties everything together. If she is already preparing for the throne at 19, what happens when she actually takes it? What kind of queen will she be? What kind of leader? What kind of voice? The answer reveals itself slowly, piece by piece, through her training. She will be a queen who understands pressure. A queen who knows discipline. A queen who has tasted fear and risen anyway. A queen who carries not just the crown, but the country. In the final months of her aviation training, she reaches the moment that symbolizes everything her journey has become. Her first solo flight. No instructor behind her, no safety net, no guiding voice, just her, her training, her courage, and the endless sky. That moment is the perfect metaphor for her future. Because one day, she will ascend the throne, alone. Not as a daughter, not as a cadet, but as a queen, and Spain will look to her. Not because of her bloodline, but because of her preparation. Not because of her title, but because of her strength. 19 years old, training to fly fighter jets. Preparing to lead a nation. Shouldering a legacy untouched by a woman for 157 years. This is not the story the world expected from her. But it is the story she is writing, one mission, one challenge, one impossible expectation at a time. And as she rises, Spain rises with her. Because for the first time in over a century, the future throne does not belong to a man. It belongs to a woman who chose the sky, before she chose the crown. A woman who understands that true leadership isn't inherited. It is earned. And Princess Leonor is earning it, one flight, one test, one quiet moment of courage at a time.